This video is brought to you in part by the patrons of the Lazy Eyebrow, and from the comments and watch time from viewers like you. Thank you!
Come on. It wasn't this hard when I was invisible last week. Where's the hello fellow Autobots. Isn't it great being so noble and so just?
Sure, Optimus. You okay?
Yep, just a regular day doing my usual heroic nonsense. Nothing unusual here.
Alright, well, let us know if you need anything, I guess.
Well, that was weird.
You're telling me.
That was a close one. Alright, there's gotta be a way to sabotage this. The humans are always talking about deleting System 32. Let's see, Teletron. Do you have one? Oh, darn it. I don't even know how to search on this thing.
We were out looking for transition rods, and while they were there, Soundwave was spying on them.
Smokescreen! Come here and help me figure out Teletron. Smokescreen? Smokescreen! Get your miserable chassis over here before I rip your optics out.
I'm here. For goodness sakes, what's up, Prime? You don't need to get so hostile.
Wait, I didn't call Smokescreen?
You did. There was no mistaking who you were calling, and here I am.
Hang on. You're Smokescreen? Then who's that?
Soundwave was spying on them, and that's Bluestreak.
So let me see if I got this straight. You two are both the same car, you're blue, he's gray, but you're not Bluestreak and he's not Smokescreen?
Oh, for goodness sake! I don't know how many times I have to explain this. I'm a race car, I do burnouts, I'm the stealth tactician, I make smoke. That's my name. I'm not even the same car.
Optimus, you of all people know how sensitive those two are about getting their names mixed up.
How is this my fault? Should I rename Thundercracker at Skywarp to Purple Cracker at Sky Blue? Would that make everyone happy?
Why would we—
to scrap with this!
I don't know who's behind naming the Autobots, but they're a bunch of circuit-sucking morons! You're free to go, Prime. You've got enough on your plate without me interfering. Surprise, one of them hasn't gotten you killed yet.
Thanks, Megatron. I'm glad someone finally understands the burden I bear. Same time next week?
Wouldn't miss it!
Why hello you two, greetings from the Lazy Eyebrow to a double feature review. This is the review for Earthrise, Bluestreak, and Smokescreen. Figures that were actually easier to get a hold of this time around. Granted, one was an exclusive and they released during a worldwide health crisis, but even so, I actually saw both of these in person in stores in several places, and that's kind of a first for these guys. Unfortunately, that occurred after I had already sourced them from the 14th Prime in the States, but the point remains. Easier to acquire than Siege. Bluestreak and Smokescreen in their Earth modes look absolutely fantastic. They appear to be taking a lot of their design cues from the old 60s 240Z. However, I can't help but feel some of the modern 400Z aesthetics have merged themselves in, making for a vehicle mode that feels modern, yet retro, like an homage to the original alt mode, while also having a semi-modern aesthetic. As far as alt modes go, I feel like it's one of the better ones that came out of Earthrise. The majority of the alt mode is the cleanest that I've seen in a while, with the exception of the wheel hubs, mind you. I personally don't understand why they resorted to visible, collapsible mushroom pegs, especially after the Siege wheels had much more complex parts going on, especially in the shoulders where the wheels attached, but they still had proper wheels. But hey, if you can get past that, it's a really solid alt mode. You get a molded-in spoiler, which I feel was included for Smokescreen's part, as originally Prowl and Bluestreak never had them, but it really doesn't look that out of place. Molded-in exhaust pipes, and not just one, but 4. Like, that's really cool. They went to all the extra trouble to mold these in. Like, it's got one of those performance mufflers to improve exhaust flow or something. Other neat details include a fuel door molded on the left side and just the left side, taillights molded that remind me of the 400Z, and despite the collapsible peg wheel hubs, they even took the time to mold in not just performance rotors, but calipers too. Nifty! Individually though, Bluestreak still remains my favorite of the mold. That dark gray with a stylish black top, everything about this car, no matter how many different versions of it I see, just scream high class, and I can't get enough of it. One day I want to completely repaint this in a metallic charcoal to really up the class factor, but that's a project for another day. Another cool thing I like about Bluestreak is he gets painted taillights as well as that black between them, really selling that automotive look. This is kind of par for the course it seems though, as Siege Bluestreak was also the only one that had painted taillights back then too. In general, I feel Bluestreak really sells the whole disguised robot shtick the best. And finally, an added bonus painting him gray is that by adding silver to the rims, admittedly the only one that actually got painted rims at all, is that it sort of blends together, and as long as you're not focusing on it, the less than stellar aesthetic design doesn't stick out that much, which is highly contrasted by the blue hubs of Smokescreen. As for the rest of Smokescreen, though, he looks great. Oh, wait, there seems to be a footnote on that, though. Let's take a look at that. For a deluxe price point. Yes, we'll get to that. So first, let's talk about what's great. Smokescreen is a character whose alt mode relies on a boatload of paint. The entire thing is cast in either clear or blue, so anything red or white that you see is painted on there. In fact, that this figure exists at all in a production budget is astounding in and of itself, and then you factor in they changed the tooling to give him that race car body kit front end that he's known for.
Outstanding.
All of that taking into consideration, yeah, I can totally forgive it for the otherwise bland car. It's not a masterpiece by any stretch, and I get that. And they're also going for that minimalist, cheaply produced cartoon aesthetic, so this is as best as you're going to get. I also really like their choice for the darker translucent plastic. It's a race car, and it sort of gives off that vibe that the headlights are blacked out, or even just straight up absent to go racing with. I quite like that. It's also why I'm okay with non-painted taillights. I would prefer if they were, of course, but sure, they can be blank, why not? I don't get why they went with 80, though. The color scheme they're pulling off originally had the number 83 written on it, so you'd think 38 would be safe, but that was actually driven by Jim Fitzgerald, which was also another 280ZX. So it kind of makes sense why Hasbro's avoiding it, I guess. I just don't understand the 80 itself, or what connection that has to anything. Siege had 49, and I sort of made an addition connection, but 80 just seems out there. However, one issue I do have with my Smokescreen is the roof doesn't sit flush. This is a known QC issue that happens with a random number within the mold and can happen with any figure between Prowl, Bluestreak, Smokescreen, or Barricade. It's caused by some sort of molding issue in the legs not letting them come together as they should, so the tapered edge that the roof sits on forces the roof up as a result. The fix for this is to take a heat gun, or a hairdryer on high, to the underside of the roof section and flex in the roof until it fits. It's not an easy process, and it is kind of risky, so, do so at your own risk, basically. So just stock figures, that's the review. I love Bluestreak as I often do. Smokescreen is great, but could be improved, and either way, I much prefer both over their Siege counterparts. Speaking of improvements, though, let's talk about what you can do with your figures. Toy hacks. Smokescreen currently has labels available for him that accent both his robot mode and his vehicle modes, and this is a set I totally welcome. First off, stickers have been provided to give him his Diaclone look right down to the real and robo hood. If you're looking for more of a cartoonish appearance but still want some more of that detail to your Smokescreen, you can apply the 38, extra striping along the hood and bottom of the car, and new labels for the windows to give Smokescreen a look of tinted windows and dashboard, as well as taillights, a license plate, and all that good stuff. If you feel like a cartoon reference, though, the Gambler, in reference to the G1 episode of the same name, is there for a race car nickname. But if you're like me and you love your realism, you can swap the numbering to 83 and add in some real-world sponsorship seen on the 70s 280Z race car driven by Don Devendorf. I also moved the number on the hood to above the roof vent to reveal the Autobot badge again, but still having the hood numbering like the original car did. And now Smokescreen totally fits in with my Toy Hacks, Jazz, and customized Wheeljack as the 3 race-oriented Autobots. Now, if only they made a better Mirage, we'd have all 4. However, that's not the only thing you can do with your Earthrise Datsuns. Well, no, these alt modes aren't exactly 240Z replicas. I really did enjoy the original headlights on those cars, and thankfully the headlights on this mold are removable pieces. So I designed replacement parts to fit where the original ones sit. Installation is pretty easy. Open the doors, move the arms out of the way, stick a screwdriver in there, and take out those 2 screws. After which, the front bumper comes right off, and you swap the lights after you paint them to your liking. Reassemble, and there. Even more of a retro reference if that's your fancy. Link in the description if you want to pick up your own set, though. Finally, one last change. Little bit of black paint, chuck it on the Smokescreen hub, and there. Blends in way better and feels like a proper car now. Now as for accessories. They do also come with shoulder cannons and rifles, and you're supposed to peg them in here, but I feel like usual this looks dumb, and isn't something I'm going to be doing on my own volition anytime soon. Mind you, I guess you can slide attach the weapon to look slightly better, but For size comparison, Studio Series Jazz, Earthrise Wheeljack, Earthrise Sunstreaker, Siege Mirage, Siege Sideswipe, and all of these cars more or less work. It's not perfect, but, well, when is it ever? Netflix B, Earthrise Prime, Kingdom Warpath, Kingdom Huffer, and Earthrise Trailbreaker. But what about Movieverse, I hear none of you asking? Clunker B, Studio Series 38 Prime, Jet Mode Shatter, Deluxe Ratchet, and Car Dropkick. How about the comparison nobody was expecting, though? Kingdom Cheetor, Optimus Primal, Air Razor, Dinobot, and Rat Trap. And finally the G1s, because why not at this point? B, Prime, Path, Scream, and Breaker. So that was the review for the vehicle mode. I really enjoy what they did. I also enjoy how easy it was to improve upon the alt modes to really bring them to the next level. This take on the Datsun mold may be my absolute favorite they've ever done that isn't Masterpiece. It feels like a proper homage to the past while also taking modern design cues to make it its own thing. I love it for that. We'll take a quick commercial break and dive right into Transformation.
The Transformers will return after these messages. We now return to the Transformers.
Welcome back. To transform the Datsun mold, start by opening up the doors. Fold up the arms and pull them apart. Rotate down the feet. Rock the windshield and whole front of the car forward to give clearance for the legs, and then extend them. Separate the legs. Flip the heel down and rotate around this panel. Rotate at the waist. On the hood, fold down the hood scoop. Move the hood over the head like your Datsun is getting dressed for the day and slot the hood scoop into the chest. Take the shoulder joints and tab them into the armpits to lock it all together. Rotate the arms down. And if everything was done right and it's all aligned correctly, there's small notches on the doors that will rest on side view mirrors. There! Robot mode. For posterity's sake, because some people tend to throw a hissy fit if I don't show stock configurations, this is how they come. This is Smokescreen as seen out of the box. Here he is with minimal labels for number and cartoon accuracy, and then here they both are with Smokescreen fully labeled up and both of them with the new headlights. With that out of the way, let's move on. Right out of the gate, I absolutely love what they've done. I mean, no, it's not totally 100% perfect, but they've done so much to make these fantastic, and leaps and bounds in terms of improvement over the Siege counterparts. Not just because they're Earth mode, and that's my preference, no sir or madam, but actually a better figure, and we'll get into that. First, I want to talk about what I don't like just to get it out of the way. So the Earthrise Datsun mold is an oddity in the sense that it's better the higher up you are on the figure. So scooting all the way down to the bottom is where we find our three problems. Now, I feel I must forerun my first gripe by saying hollow parts don't personally bother me. It impresses me when it's dealt with, but if it isn't, it's not really the skin off my back. That being said, though, the feet are left with this gaping cavity. Designers clearly saw this, though, and decided to come with a brilliant solution. Yeah, that's the solution. Okay, throw down your pitchforks, everybody. Hasbro has solved the hollow parts conundrum. Let's be real here, folks. This is lame. If you're happy with it and want to say they tried their best, be grateful, hey, that's well within your right. But, yeah, this image definitely comes to mind. It's not like the solution here doesn't exist, though. Masterpiece Datsuns decided to put the rotating cover on the foot rather than the leg, and it's not like you can argue, well, that would have added extra plastic because it's literally the same cover but utilized more effectively. Basically, I think this attempt is laughable, and I'm more than happy removing it to use as this poor excuse of gap covers. Okay, less of an issue. Second point is I'm not a fan of the heel. It works, it's just really small and a little unstable. However, the high heel leg gap makes great for concealing sticky tack for animating, so it kind of works out. And my last contention is the shins. The entirety of them is cast in clear and painted over with a critical knee joint relying on the fragile brittleness of translucency. Reports exist of them already cracking and disintegrating for some people, so, you know, be aware and all that. Anyway, negatives covered, let's talk about what's great, because as I said, it exceeds what Siege did in just about every single way. So those shins, when actually painted, they do a far better job concealing hollowness than the Siege version does. Some days it feels like the Siege wasn't even trying and just gave us two sides of a rectangular prism and said, there's your leg, enjoy! Speaking of beefing up legs though, those thighs, they look so much more stocky, so much more proportionate with the shins, and way better than the gangly things the Siege legs were. And as an added bonus, Smokescreen gets his properly colored thighs now, so that's extra awesome. Smokescreen on the Earthrise is his front arrow kit chest, differentiating him from Bluestreak and Prowl, much like how he was in the cartoon, and very much unlike the Siege where it was just the same mold but duplicated. What wasn't a straight duplication though was the head sculpt on Siege Smokescreen. That being said though, the Earthrise mold not only looks significantly cleaner, but also has been designed in a way to increase the range of articulation, even with the Nightbird style hood surrounding his face. Same goes for Bluestreak in terms of articulation. Mind you, the cleaner lines also tend to give Bluestreak a younger looking face, which I feel kind of suits his persona. This didn't exactly jive with me for Prowl, mind you, and therefore I swapped the heads, give the Earth mode a bit more of an older feel, and differentiates the two between Bluestreak and Prowl. I don't super recommend this though, in the sense that while it worked for the Earthrise mold with Siege Head, the Siege with the Earthrise head is now super loose, and has trouble staying upright. I could probably fix this with some super glue and tightening up that ball joint, and whatever, it could work, but my point is it may not be the exact same peg size, so be aware. Another thing I love over the Siege is the head placement itself. Siege had it more forward placed, though, when you compare that to Earthrise, which makes it feel more centralized with the robot itself and less back heavy. And that doesn't even mention the new design, which is just kind of mind-blowing the way it's been designed to take everything aesthetically into account. Like Siege, they just took the hood flap and popped it into the back and called it a day. Meanwhile, everything has been engineered on Earthrise so that when the actual neck cavity is parallel to the ground and the abs are fully upright, you end up with this angled front end instead of being nearly flat like it once was. Why is this great? When looking head-on, you can actually see the door wings. It's a deluxe. Obviously, they're not throwing in a second piece to allow them to flip up like the masterpiece. So they're designing the chest to angle down so the wings can point up, accentuated by that little flare to give the car some visual style. It's such a clever way to go about doing it. Meanwhile, the Siege just raised the door tips a bit and left them virtually flat. Comparatively, one looks sort of dull, meanwhile the other one looks dynamic. Finally, about my favorite thing. It's an issue that I actually did have with my Siege figures, and that there was no actual spot for the door wings to go. You kind of just sort of had to wing it. Here, there's notches cut into the door to rest on side view mirrors, giving it a definitive resting spot. Meanwhile, Siege slaps about wildly like a screen door in a hurricane. Just start to finish, it feels like everything about Siege that was great was kept, and everywhere that it fell short was improved upon, giving us this definitive version of a deluxe Datsun. It just looks so great. As for accessories, again, they come with shoulder cannons and the rifle. I'm guessing these were cast in the mold that the hands and shoulders were also part of, because for whatever reason they're blue on Smokescreen instead of silver, and light gray for Bluestreak, which is something that bothered me for Bluestreak, is the 3 different shades of gray going on, but that's a project for another day. For now, you have a rifle, which doesn't look half bad, and shoulder cannons, which I would like to design new ones for Smokescreen one day. Unfortunately, though, I seem to have misplaced Smokescreen rifle for now, so I guess he can have the NES Zapper or something. Or, being that he's an excellent marksman and hitting the broadside of the moon from 400,000 kilometers away is not an easy feat, how about a dual portal device? Articulation features a rotating head and a ball joint with a wide range of movement in the tilt department as well. Even the Smokescreen head mold has a good range, as well as the Siege swapped head. Again, you compare that to Siege and it's just no contest. Arm joints that go out, elbows bend more than 90 degrees without looking weird at the elbow, rotate at the bicep, rotate at the hand, and rotate at the shoulder. Waist rotation, legs go all the way out, and a little bit back and ridiculously far forward. Like that is a kick if I ever saw one. Thighs rotate, and the knees bend like no tomorrow. Feet have an insane range in forward and backward movement as well as an ankle tilt. Like it's absolutely nuts how far this deluxe figure can move. It's crazy! It can split and stand like a bridge, pull off overly dynamic pointing and shooting poses. The famed flying kick, which not only can it get into, but animates beautifully out of as well. In short, no matter which version of the character you compare it to in terms of a mainline release, this Datsun mold is the best version of it, hands down. It's better proportioned. It isn't a quick remolded cash grab. It's an improvement on previous iterations, and it isn't a Movieverse figure. And of the 3 figures that actually got an Earthrise variation of, it is also the one I feel took the most improvements to the figure to get the best version of. I love Leader Prime, but I feel like this just edges it out in terms of things improved on just ever so slightly. Further size comparisons, Power of the Prime's Beachcomber, Earthrise Cliffjumper, Titan's Return Cosmos, McFan's Choice Huffer, Siege Sideswipe, Earthrise Sunstreaker, Studio Series Jazz, Earthrise Trailbreaker, Earthrise Hoist, Earthrise Grapple, Earthrise Optimus, Studio Series Grimlock, Combiner War Superion, and finally Siege Jetfire. So that was my review for Earthrise, Smokescreen, and Bluestreak. This is, I feel, and I'm going to repeat myself, the definitive version of these characters. They look fantastic. They function so well. They balance wonderfully. It's nice to be able to complete the trio of race car Autobots, which could become a quartet if Earth Mode Mirage is what I hope it'll be. Regardless, I'm so glad these happened so we could get these incredible renditions. If you don't at least own one of them by now, I totally recommend doing so. So long as it doesn't break your bank though, as I know the aftermarket on these is all sorts of no thank you. But even so, it's still probably worth getting. This has been the Lazy Eyebrow. Hey, thanks for watching my review of Bluestreak and Smokescreen. Or is it Bluestreak and Smokescreen? That is one point I had wanted to make in the actual review, but it just kind of rambled on too long. Bluestreak is an old term meaning someone that talked so long they got blue in the face. In other words, they talked for a blue streak, and that was his character persona, was that he rambled. And this guy is a race car. He makes burnouts and stuff when he wins. He makes a smokescreen. Speaking of which, there's a car just totally revving it out there. Anyways, so that's what I had to say, but you know, time and stuff. If you like this review, I would totally appreciate it if you liked or comment or otherwise engaged this video to push it in the algorithm to think that, yeah, maybe this is worth recommending other people. And that would totally be appreciative to me. If you want to go even more than that and want to be an absolutely stellar person, you can join this cast of characters that have absolutely just blown it out of the park and decided to support me on Patreon. Totally appreciate that too. So where we're going from here, I am thinking it is time to honor an agreement that went out in a poll months back in terms of doing a Studio Series figure, and it's one that you saw in a comparison in this review. So, next time we'll be looking at Studio Series Grimlock. This has been the Lazy Eyebrow.